soap framework. Step 2, O for options to supersize and grow your business. Sharon Horne-Ellstrom here. Let's talk about this for a couple of minutes today. Soap framework is something that I've been using for at least the last 4 or 5 years. During the pandemic, all the craziness, we had to make a decision. Each and every one of us had to make a choice. We were either going to sit back and wait and see what was going to happen with forces outside of us, or we were going to say, yeah, okay, this happened. What am I going to do about it? And we would get proactive and decide what actions and things we needed to take in order to survive the whole pandemic thing. Not only just physically survive, but our businesses, our livelihood, etc. Because many of our businesses were shut down immediately with the pandemic handling. So one of the things that came out of that was I decided I needed to find a way to keep moving forward. And I always had a way to deal with a process, but I never had identified it for handling challenges, setbacks, obstacles, things that were outside of my control, but I still wanted to have the best possible response for me to them. And that's why I came up with the SOAP framework. And the SOAP framework I've used and I've taught it extensively. I teach it every single month of the year for about the last 4 or 5 years. And today we're on step 2. We're focusing on spiritual health and well-being this month for both Supersize Your Business and for our Be a Better You annual challenge. And the tool I like to share, and I probably share it too often because it's one of my favorites, is the 10-3-1 tool, where we just brainstorm a list of at least 10 possible ways to fill the gap that we created yesterday or that we identified yesterday. The gap's always been there. We just never probably sat down and identified it before. And that is, we picked a spiritual thing that we wanted to improve for our business, and we talked about and documented. We did at least 5 bullet points of the current situation and at least 5 bullet points for what we want the situation to be like, the desired story or the desired situation. And today we're just going to come up with and brainstorm, and you can do it any way you want. You can just Google brainstorming if you don't have a favorite way. I have a lot of favorite ways. Sometimes I'll just carry a pack of Post-its around with me, and I'll just write down everything that comes to mind as it comes to mind. Then I'll look at them at the end of the day, and I'll say, okay, I like this idea, and combining these 2 ideas to make my 3rd idea. And I will pick 3 of them today. That's why it's the 10-3-1 tool. And then tomorrow, we're going to analyze those options and those alternatives, and we're going to take action on one of them by picking and selecting one. But today, all we're going to do is think about how can we possibly fill that gap. There's a lot of ways. There's actually infinite possibilities. Sometimes we get ourselves blocked into this all or nothing thinking. That's why I always go, whenever I brainstorm anything, and I do it a lot, like every day, I got something I'm working on, I always come up with at least 10 possible alternatives. And usually, there's something magic actually that happens after about 20. All of a sudden, the floodgates open and you get a gazillion ideas. I don't know if you've ever made it to 20 possibilities, but that seems to be how it works for me and the groups that I've worked with before on this. All right. Any questions about this? If you're not sure what to do, if you're not sure what brainstorming technique to use, if you need one, just ask, right? Literally, I have a bunch of them in my toolbox, and I'd be happy to share and see what would work best for you and your situation. Otherwise, go out, make it an amazing day, and I will, of course, do it tomorrow.